Hi guys, Tony from Maryland and Delaware Herping here, and this is Dennis, as most of you know. He is my Western Hognose. Um, so, Christmas was 2 days ago. Tomorrow, the 28th, I turned 32 years old, so it's kind of got me in this mood of what would be my dream reptiles. You know, if there were 5 reptiles I could own, and money wasn't an option, space wasn't an option, anything like that, what would I own? Because Dennis doesn't fall into that category. Dennis was a little bit pricey because he's a morph, but his enclosure is nothing too serious. I think it's a 2 foot by 18 by 1.5 foot, and it's deep with substrate for him to burrow into. I may move him to something bigger, but he's really living a good life in that enclosure, and I just don't see much reason to upend that at the moment. But not all reptiles are like Dennis. Some of them really require a lot more. So what are these animals I'm thinking of that I would like to own, but I just can't at the moment because one, I don't have the funds to provide the proper husbandry, or two, I just don't have the space. So just a few caveats to this list. Nothing that's going to kill me. I really don't want to own anything like that. I don't want to own a saltwater crocodile or a Nile crocodile. And I don't want to own really, really big snakes. I'm talking about reticulated pythons, Burmese pythons, anacondas. Those are things you should only be handling if you have somebody else in the room. So maybe if I have my own facility someday, I would like to own something like that, but not when it's just me and my mom and my girlfriend. Like, I don't want to put that responsibility on them to save my life. I'd much rather have like an employee that worked at the facility where I'm at that like is trained to do that. So, what are these animals? And like I said, I explained what they are, so let's not waste any time. Dennis, don't get jealous during this list. Number 5, Argentine black and white Tegu. I haven't owned a big lizard before. I've only owned some, beginner to intermediate lizards. And I guess they're a more higher level intermediate species. And it's probably the thing on the list that I could own the quickest, that I could build an enclosure and acquire the easiest on this list. They're very readily available. They've been at almost every expo I've been to. But I'm not ready quite yet. I kind of need to get some things together because I do want to build, an amazing enclosure for a Tegu. So a big thing with them is you're going to want something that's deep, substrate they can burrow. I didn't drop him, he dropped himself. Where they can burrow and move around and all that. But I'm just not quite there yet. But I think that it'd just be really cool to own this like 5 foot long lizard that's has an omnivorous diet, so I could feed it a variety of things, and they're trainable. I really fell in love with this species watching Clint's Reptiles. Just seeing him with Gus on there and how he's basically trained him to be like a dog, I think is amazing. That was very appealing to me. So definitely hopefully the next 5 years I'll have a Tegu. I just need to figure out the specs of it. So number 4 on the list is sulcata tortoises. Now I pluralize that because I would love to have kind of like a small group of them, maybe like 2 or 3. And I watch these videos all the time of people that are building these sheds in their yards to house them during the winter, and they're just equipped with like heat lamps and UVB lamps and insulation. And I think that it's awesome. And on top of that, there's so many adult tortoises out there that need rescued, because you go to pet stores, expos, anywhere, and you see these babies that are like that big, and people buy them because they're adorable. Every tortoise is adorable. And then they realize after feeding it for a little bit what they've got themselves into, and they now realize that they own the 3rd largest tortoise species in the world, so they have to give them up. And I would like to, be part of the solution with that and, rescue one. So again, hopefully that's another project that's within like the next 5 years that I could really, jump into and, you know, build a cool enclosure for them, preferably outside. So we'll see. I need to watch more of those videos and figure out what I'm getting into. Number 3 on the list, turtles. He's looking at me like, really? No, and that's probably the same look you guys are getting. I've owned turtles before. I've, completely half-assed it where I, got an aquarium, a Walmart filter, and all that, and they did live, but it's, I want to go the real deal. I want to have an actual, like, pond-type setup. Similar, if you watch Brian Barczyk's channel, he has that at the Reptarium. Emily and Ed at Snake Discovery just installed something like that recently at their facility. I think that would be so cool, just to have, like, kind of like a state-of-the-art filter system with fountains and all that, and be able to house multiple species together, like painters and sliders and mud turtles, maybe some soft shells, and, just have like this thriving ecosystem. So it's probably the one thing on the list where it's more about the enclosure than the actual animal that's in it. So hopefully, that might be something that's within the next 5 years, maybe a little bit more, because that would be an expensive project. And see where it goes. But it's always been a dream of mine to have just this decent sized turtle setup where they got plenty of room to swim, several basking spots, and just it would look almost naturalistic. So yeah, that's number 3. Now number 2, Dennis is going to be happy with this because we're finally getting to the first snake on the list, and this might surprise some people, but it's an Eastern Indigo snake. Much bigger than you. Eastern Indigos are the largest. I know they're the largest non-venomous species in North America, well, other than boa constrictors and anacondas. Well, boa constrictors are only in Central America now. Anyway, they're the largest colibrid. I know that much. And they get very big. They can get up to 7, maybe 8 feet. Very heavy-bodied for a colibrid, and they're super intelligent and very handleable and everything. They make great pets, but there's 2 things. One, they are very endangered, especially in the wild. Most of that's due to habitat loss. So finding them in captivity is a big challenge. There are people that are breeding them, but it's kind of like a work in progress, and it's very bird in hand. You kind of got to take them when they're there. They're not popular in rescues because since they're pretty much like a hobbyist snake. Like, you're not just getting them like a ball python or a corn snake or even a western hognose. This is the snake, when people get it, they're getting it to keep it, and so not often are you going to find one that needs rescued. And mainly if one did need rescued, it wouldn't be on the rescue market long because somebody's going to snatch it up. So they are expensive too. So if I, in the near future, come across one that I see for sale and I've got the money to get it, more than likely I'm going to jump on it. But I've seen these guys listed for like $1,000, even more. Maybe they're cheaper out there, but the ones that I've seen were pretty expensive, and I rarely see babies for sale. I feel like people jump on that real quick, but it has always been a dream species of mine to own for just so many reasons. And yeah, if I come across one, I will have it. So whether it's next month or 5 years from now, I would definitely love to own an Eastern Indigo. But yeah, so that's number 2 and the only snake that's on this list. Number 1, might surprise some people, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Asian water monitor. I've watched so many channels where people have like really cool setups for Asian water monitors. A good example is on Camp Kennan's channel. He has really cool outdoor setups down in Florida. I think Tom Crutchfield might have the same thing. I don't know if I'd be able to do an outdoor setup because I live in northeastern Maryland, and it gets chilly here in the winter, so I don't think that would work. But I do think that someday, depending on where I live, it would be possible to build a big um, indoor setup for an Asian water monitor. But the big thing too is you need to provide a really big water receptacle for them to swim in, because Asian water monitor, that's what they like to do. And could you get by with like the bare minimum, with like maybe a decent enclosure that they can move around in, and maybe a big soaking tub that you have to empty out probably every other day? You could, but again, I don't want to own something just to own it. I want to own something to, see it thrive in captivity. And, you know, I guess this is similar to the turtles, but it's a big part of just building the enclosure too. Having this big naturalistic setup with plants and climbing branches and basking spots, and then a big, filtered water receptacle they can swim in. That would be amazing to me. It would just be so cool to be able to construct something like that. So I don't know if that's 5 years in the future, but it's definitely on the wish list. And as soon as I can afford to do something like that, and then maintain and keep that animal with the UVB light bulb replacements, the heat bulb replacements, feeding a lizard that big, that would be that'd be the dream animal for me to own. So again, I'm very happy with the animals that I have right now, especially Dennis, even though he keeps trying to burrow through my fingers with his derpy nose. But those are 5 that would be really awesome to own and be part of my private collection. So we'll see where it goes. I hope that I at least own a few of them here in the future, but until then, Maryland and Delaware herping, and Dennis, and we are so thankful that you watched this video, and we'll have something for you again soon. Take care.